If you're a service-based business running Google Ads or running Google Ads for service-based businesses and looking to generate as many high-quality leads as possible, in today's video we'll show you the exact steps on how to do so regardless of the service that's being offered. Now to start, what we want to do is go to all campaigns so that we can actually start creating a new campaign, which is where you do so here, and press new campaign. And for objective then we're always going to choose leads because we're looking to generate leads. Conversion goals then we're going to set up later because you'll be setting up your conversion tracking as we're actually inside our account after we initially publish the campaign. So we'll continue for now. And for campaign type then we're always going to start out with search campaigns. And I always recommend using just search campaigns for the most part. And then, if you really want to branch out and use other campaign types, once you have loads of data after running the search campaign for months, then you can do so. But search campaigns what we always recommend. And for the select the ways you'd like to reach your goal, we can leave this blank for now. And you can name your campaign as well, whatever you like. So usually you can enter in your company name and the type of campaign that you're running. So you can say responsive search ads for video, as we call it in this case, and press continue and just start new. And straight away then you'll be brought to bidding, where you have to choose exactly what bidding strategy that you want to focus on. Now we're going to choose maximize clicks for this campaign. And for those of you that want to know why in further detail, I'll leave the link to a video up above that goes through maximize clicks versus maximize conversions in more detail. And you can decide from there which bidding strategy you'd prefer to use. But this is what we'd always recommend starting out for any lead generation campaigns. And we'd also recommend setting a maximum cost per click bid limit as well. And what we like to use to actually determine what our maximum cost per click bid limit is going to be is we like to use Keyword Planner, where we go to discover new keywords. And this is what we'll use for our actual keyword research, which we'll walk through as well in a moment. But just to get past the stage of deciding what our maximum cost per click bid limit is going to be, first of all, since you're a service-based business, you want to enter in the actual location that you're based in, not the full country. But we can leave like this for the video. But we can leave it like this just for the purpose of demonstrating what to do for this video. And now this is where you can type in a couple of keyword ideas that are related to the service that you offer. But we can just use, for example, roofing for this video. So we can type in some keywords, for example, roofer near me and roof repair near me, just to give Google some ideas of the types of keywords that we'd like to target. And then you can press get results to get a big list of keywords that appear. And straight away then you see a big list of keywords appear that are relevant to the two keyword ideas that we just entered in. And what we want to do, just for the purpose of getting our maximum cost per click bid limit right, is we want to come over here and look at the top of bid high range for the cost per clicks of the keywords. So for each of these keywords, the top of bid low range is the lowest anyone's paying per click, and the top of bid high range is the highest anyone's paying per click. And what we want to do early on to be as competitive as possible is set our bid as close as possible to the top of bid high range for this campaign. And you don't necessarily always have to, aim to be number one the whole time. But what we want to do is at least be competitive with our bid so that we're not struggling for traffic from the very beginning. So in this example, the top of bid high range is around €10. And what you can do as well, if it fits your budget, is just go straight to €10 for your maximum cost per click bid limit. But what we like to do for a lot of campaigns starting out is set this number as close as possible to the high range, but not, exceeding it. So that way we're not paying more than every other competitor just for the sake of it. So for this example, we could say €9 for our maximum cost per click bid limit. So we'll enter in €9 here. And for customer acquisition, then we don't need to bid for new customers only. So we can just press next. And under campaign settings, then what you want to make sure you do is just deselect Google Search Partners Network and Google Display Network because they just usually lead to very low quality traffic for the most part. So just deselect those. And under locations then as well, it's really important that we don't want to target the whole world. And we want to really make sure as well that under location options, first of all, that you select presence because you only want to target people that are actually inside your target location as a service-based business, and you don't want to target anyone that's shown interest because those people don't necessarily have to be based inside your target location. So it's a common mistake I see that you might forget to just change this from presence or interest to presence, but it's just worth mentioning to do so. And what you can do then is just press enter another location and press advanced search. And for the purpose of this video, we're just going to enter in Ireland. But in your case, you obviously want to enter in the specific city or county or suburbs or whatever areas that you're looking to target. And you can do so by place name or by mile radius as well. And once you do that, then you can just press save. And then languages then by default should just be set to your own native language. And that's usually the one that you want to use for your campaign. But it's just worth mentioning that in general, you don't want to run your campaign in multiple languages. If you're targeting a country that speaks multiple languages, then the chances are you're much better off creating a separate campaign for that language. So whatever the default language is set to, that's the language that you're most likely best off using. And under audience segments, then what we recommend doing is always setting it to observation mode from the very beginning. Because if you set it to targeting from the very beginning, then there's only specific audiences that you're targeting. But we want to target based more on the keyword level and the location level, but not just specific audiences within that location for those keywords. And what we can do over time then is observe the data that we get on the specific audiences, and then we can choose to target those audiences later on if those audiences are performing well. So that way, then we're not limiting ourselves to who can actually see our ads in the first place. But what we like to do then, once we've made sure this is selected to observation, is just select all the relevant audiences that we could target. And it literally does not matter how many of these audiences that you want to target. You can go through all of the different demographics and you can just decide to target as many of these as you'd like. So it probably wouldn't make sense to target current college students, but more or less, nearly everything else. And for example, if you're offering home services, then it wouldn't make sense to target renters. But it does not. But it doesn't really matter for the reason that it's selected to observation mode anyway. So we're not only targeting these people. And once you've added in as many audience segments then as you like, and made sure it's selected to observation mode, we can keep going down then. And for broad match keywords, then this can just be selected to off if it's not by default already. And automatically created assets should by default be set to off as well. And then under more settings, we like to use optimize ad rotation, because if you're using 3 ads in each of your ad groups, then if Google notices that one ad is performing better than the other two, then Google will just simply show that ad more often than the other two. So it's just a really useful way of having your best performing ads shown more often. And that's one of Google's AI features that we actually recommend using, that we prefer, that we don't mind, giving control over, because optimized ad rotation generally does work really well. And if you were to choose do not optimize, each of the 3 ads would be getting equal number of impressions, regardless of how each of them are performing. But we'd rather our ads with the highest click-through rates and the highest conversion rates being shown more often than the ads that are not getting the highest click-through rates and conversion rates. And under more settings then, apart from that, the only other thing that needs to be changed is your ad schedule. So as a service-based business, the chances are that for the most part that you might not be operating 24/7. And the key really is that you only want to run your ad schedule when you know that if a lead comes in, that you'll be able to respond to that lead as soon as possible. So, for example, if you're only working Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, then that's the best ad schedule for you. But if you want to run your ads for more hours of the day, then you're best off just doing so when you know that if you're collecting leads in the form of phone calls or form submissions, that you're available to either answer the phone or respond to any form submission leads as soon as possible. And this can always be adjusted at any time. For example, if you're running in the ads on Mondays to Fridays, but then struggling for search volume and to spend your budget, then you could always turn on your ads on the weekends as well to see if it helps spend your budget. But we'd usually just recommend running your ads when you know that you'll be available to contact leads as soon as they come in. And then what we can do is press next, and then we'll be asked to add our initial few keywords. And we prefer to just skip this part as we don't want our ads or keywords automatically generated for us. And what we'll be asked to do then is create our first ad in ad group. And so this is where we'll come back to the Google Ads keyword planner again, and where we want to decide what keywords that we're actually going to target for the campaign. And now we do have much more detailed videos on keyword research in general, and also how to use the keyword planner inside Google Ads if you'd like to have a look at those videos. But just to give you a brief idea on how we like to do keyword research in the most effective way possible, what we first want to do is make sure that, if there's specific services that you want to target, that you enter in some relevant keywords for that service up above first. So whatever your specific service and near me is usually a good one to start with. And what you want to do here, now that we've already looked at the top of bid, low and high range, and we already know what our maximum cost per click bid limit's going to be, is just have a look at the average monthly searches, because ideally we want to be targeting at least a few keywords that are getting a few hundred searches per month. The reason being is that we want to know that there's actually going to be enough traffic to run the campaign in the first place. And so we want to make sure that we have some of these keywords included inside our campaign as well. But what you can do then, when you're happy that you see a list of keywords appear that are relevant to the services that you want to target. So if we were running a roofing campaign, for example, and there was other services, for example, chimney repair, roof replacement, and so on, we'd add these in here. But just for the purpose of this video, we'll just show you what the initial stage of that process looks like. We like to download the report as a Google Sheet and then open the sheet and then have that Google Sheet open alongside another Google Sheet that is just completely blank, where we can take the keywords that we want to target and just simply copy and paste them into the new Google Sheet, where we can organize all of the keywords that we want to target first of all, and then split those keywords up into separate columns inside this new Google Sheet, which are going to represent our ad groups. So this is why it's important to decide in advance as well what services that you want to target, because that's going to form the basis of your actual ad groups. And so we'll just show you, for example, what two ad groups would look like for a roofing campaign. You might want to have a generic roofing ad group that have your general roofing company, roofing contractor keywords. And then you might want to have a separate one that's just specific for roof repair. And for roofer near me, you could split it up into local, where you have all the near me or in my area based keywords together. And then you could have the quality based ad group with best roofers near me, top rated roofers near me in another ad group. But this video isn't about ad group structure in particular. This is just to show you what the overall process looks like. But what we can do is just start taking some of the keywords that we want to target for the campaign and pasting it into this Google Sheet. So if we have, for example, a roofer near me, roof repairs near me, roofing companies near me, roofing contractors near me. So those are all good keywords that we'd want to target. And then best roofing company near me, local roofing companies, best roofers near me, affordable roofers near me. So these are all examples, of keywords that you might want to target if you're running a campaign. And just let's just say this was our initial generic roofing company based ad group. We could remove the roof repair near me, as we can work on that one later. But let's just say for now that these were some of the keywords that we wanted to target for the roofing company near me ad group. And now before you actually want to add these to your campaign, you obviously want to do your full keyword research process in full, and that you don't want to just add a few keywords to your campaign and then have to come back and do the rest later. You're better off just doing the full keyword research at once. And I'll just leave the link to a video up above so you have a much clearer idea on exactly how you should approach keyword research for your own campaign. But we'll just take some of these keywords here and go back to our campaign just to show you how to add them initially. And so while we're doing our initial campaign creation, we'll just have to name our first ad group. So we can call this one roofing company, and we can add in our keywords here. And it's worth mentioning as well about keywords that we'll have to change the match types of these keywords later as well. Because the chances are you're not going to want to use broad match. You'll probably want to use exact match, if not phrase. But those can be changed all at once inside the campaign later before you actually launch the campaign. But here is where you can go then to make your initial ad. And the key to writing a successful ad is that you want to firstly have your final URL, which is going to be the link to your landing page for that specific ad group. So for this example, we would have a landing page with the final URL for, your general roofing ad group. So you'd enter in your final URL first of all, and then you have your display path, which is what appears after the final URL. And it just helps people realize that, if they're looking for a roofing company, that this is the ad for them. So it's not actually the link to your URL, but it's just what appears after the link to your URL. And with your ad copy then, there's multiple different ways you can approach your ad copy, but regardless of the method you decide to choose, what you want to do with your ad copy is identify the problem, which is making sure you have keyword focus in there. So mentioning the fact that you are a roofing company, since this is a roofing company ad group. So that way, if somebody sees your ad after searching for a search term related to one of your keywords, that they straight away feel like they're in the right place. So for example, for a headline one for almost any ad group that we're ever running, is that we'd like to mention what we offer in that headline. So that way, if someone's looking for a roofing contractor, that they'll straight away see an ad for a roofing contractor. And if the space allows for it as well, you want to add in benefits of why they should choose you. So you could throw in most trusted here, for example. And sometimes you'll just have to play around with the headlines and descriptions to see what actually fits. But for example, you could just change this to most trusted roofing company. For another headline here, then you could just think of, a benefit. So why they should choose you is the next thing you want to focus on. So you could say free, no obligation quotes. And you also want to include call to actions inside your ad copy as well. So, for example, call us today or a quote. And these are just some examples of headlines that you can add. Now, what I'd recommend watching after this video, if you're looking for a much more detailed insight on how to write really effective ad copy, is that I have made another video, which I'll link right above, that goes into a lot more detail about the different ad copy strategies, and those are whether you should use all 15 headlines where you have keyword focus, benefits, and call to action, where you basically let Google recycle through these headlines and show two headlines and in different combinations together each time, where over time you'll see which headlines are performing best. Or another strategy where you only use three headlines like this, where you might have this one pinned, because that way, then you will have most trusted roofing company show as the first headline, regardless of the context, which also performs really well because you know that if someone's looking for a roofing company, that for a fact that your headline for a roofing company is going to appear. And so both methods of writing ad copy this way works really well. But regardless of the one you choose, as long as your ad copy identifies the problem by having keyword focus, gives reasons to buy, so outlining the benefits of why they should choose you, and having call to actions, letting them know what actually happens next, are some three core fundamentals that you always want to include inside your ad copy. And once you have your initial ad made, then what we want to do is set our daily budget. Now, I don't recommend just using the recommended budget given to you by Google because it doesn't have any relevant context, as all you've entered in so far is a few keywords and it's trying to forecast an expected budget based off that. But what I'd recommend doing instead is setting a custom budget. And what we like to do to set our daily budget is use the maximum cost per click bid limit that we had to use when selecting maximize clicks at the very beginning and multiply that by 10 as our daily budget. The reason being is that we know we're going to be able to get at least 10 clicks per day for our campaign. And we know that on average, if we're able to get at least 10 clicks per day and we have highly relevant ads and a high converting landing page, that we can expect to get about one conversion per day on average. And this is massively going to reduce the amount of time that we have to spend using maximize clicks in the first place. And so we want to be as flexible as possible with our daily budget because the more limited we are, then the fewer clicks per day we're able to get, meaning the fewer conversions per month we're able to get, and it'll just take longer to optimize to the point that we'll eventually be able to use smart bidding. So in this example, I'd recommend setting a custom budget of €90 per day. And now that we've gone through the initial part of the setup, all you can need to do then is just press publish to publish the campaign. And then you will be asked to set up a Google tag. But what we're going to do is we can set up conversion tracking later on. So you can just choose, I'll do this later for now. And we can just do this just so we can go ahead to our actual account and finish up the rest of our account and make sure that we have conversion tracking set up along with everything else that we have to do now that we have the initial setup done. So now that we just initially published the campaign, but we don't have the rest of the changes made yet, we just want to make sure this is selected paused. So we don't want the ads to start running yet when we haven't made the rest of the changes. Now, the first thing we want to do as well is for the keywords that we added to our account so far, they're all added by broad match by default when we just entered in the keywords. But what we can do instead is change all of these to exact match, which is what we typically recommend using for any service-based businesses at the very beginning. So you know that you're only going to appear for searches that actually mean the same thing as your keywords. So I'd recommend just making sure you remember to do that at the very beginning, because if you use all broad match keywords by accident, you're just going to massively fly through your budget and have a crazy amount of relevant search terms appear in your search terms report. And what we can do then is go to our initial ad group and go to ads. And what we want to do then is once we have our initial ad made, and regardless of the type of ad copy you decide to implement, what you can do then is add two more ads to the ad group, which is what we typically recommend. And you can add a responsive search ad again. And you can go through the same fundamentals of, identifying the problem, giving reasons to buy, and clear calls to action. But you can test different headlines and descriptions to see what actually performs best. And then over time, you'll know which of the three ads in each ad group is performing best. And once you have your three initial ads made in the first ad group, then what's really useful then is that you do not need to do this for the rest of your ad groups inside your campaign. So what you can do with your first ad group, once you have it made with all three ads written, is that you can copy the ad group, press edit, copy, press edit again, and press paste. And you can select the new campaign that we just made, press done. And then it doesn't matter if we want to pause the new ad groups after pasting or not, because the entire campaign is paused right now, so we can just leave this as is. And now you can see here that we've copied and pasted this ad group. And then all you need to do is rename the ad group for the new service that you want to add in. And then for this new ad group, then you can go into the ad group, and as you like, you can change in the keywords, first of all, for this new ad group. So you'd first of all remove all of these keywords from the initial ad group and then swap them for the new keywords of the new ad group and make sure that they're all selected to the same match type again. And what you can do then is that once you have your new ad group, you already have three ads written, and the only part of each of the ads that you need to change inside this new ad group is the keyword focus part. So let's just say we had three ads here for a roofing company, and the new ad group was for roof repair. Then anywhere it says roofing company or roofing contractor, we could just change that to roof repair. And now we have three brand new unique three ads without having to rewrite them all from scratch, because we've already added in all the benefits and calls to action and so on. So there's no need to have to do that from the very beginning every time you make a new ad group. Now, the next thing you want to do once you have your ad groups made is to make your separate landing pages for each of those ad groups. And now we have a lot of separate landing page specific content on the channel going through all the fundamentals of landing pages in general. But for each of your ad groups, what you want to do is have a relevant landing page for each. So, for example, for the first ad group, we would have affordable and reliable, for example, roofing company for the first ad group. And then for the second ad group, we'd have this saying, roof repairs. So that way, if somebody lands on the landing page after searching for roof repair and clicking on the roof repair ad, that they instantly feel like they're in the right place once they land on this landing page. And obviously, as well, you want to make sure that your offer, the text, and your benefits and details about the service that you offer is all relevant on that landing page as well. But for the most part, you can have the same initial design, but then just change around some of the photos and the text depending on the ad group that you're working with on that specific landing page. What as well I would always recommend doing in advance of launching the campaign is adding negatives to your campaign for searches that you know that from the very beginning you don't want to appear for. And especially as a service-based business, there's some examples here, for example, how to and things like that, regardless of the context. If you know that you don't want to appear for that search, then you can add these as broad match negatives to your campaign, meaning that you will not appear for any searches that mention how to. And adding negatives like this will massively reduce the amount of irrelevant searches that you appear for from the very beginning. But it's not just these types of words that you want to add as negatives. If there's any materials that you, for example, don't work with, for example, if you're in roofing and you don't offer anything to do with metal or steel, then you can offer those as negatives. And also, if you have a list of competitors in your area that might also be getting searches, you can add their company names as negatives as well. Because if somebody is looking for one of those companies, then you don't want them clicking on your ad if they already know that they're looking for a different company. And so, what you can do then, if you wanted to add some of these negatives to your campaign, just to show you what that would look like, is that you can come back to your campaign again, you go to keywords, go to negative keywords, and then add negative keywords. And then you can choose to add it at the campaign level and just add in your negatives like this and press save. And now that we've gone through how to add negatives, one of the other things that we need to just quickly walk through is assets. So adding extensions or assets to your campaign. And if you are running a service-based business, the main types of assets I would recommend adding to your campaign are images, so of the service that you offer, or also photos of your team if you have them, or any photos wearing, anything that has the company logo or company vans. They tend to perform really well. Your business name and logo are always good to add once you have the advertiser verification complete, as it just helps improve trust and authority overall. Site links as well, I'd also recommend adding for the different landing pages for the different services that you offer. Call outs then as well, where you can basically just list as many benefits as you can think of why they should choose you. Structured snippets as well, where you can list categories of features or what you offer as well, which is just another great way of giving more information about what you offer. Your call extension then as well is really useful because as a service-based business especially, and getting most of your traffic coming from mobile as you naturally will be, it's useful to have the option to call directly from the ad for those that know that they already want to call you, and that way you can get phone calls from people that aren't even going to have to click on the landing page for you to get the call. And for service-based businesses especially, those are the main extensions that we'd recommend adding. And the main purpose of these assets are to make your ad bigger. So along with your ad copy, they're really going to help improve your actual click-through rate, meaning the amount of people that click on your ads. And apart from that, then when you're actually running your campaign as well, somewhere you'll need to go quite often is your search terms report, because this is where you will see the actual searches that you've appeared for inside your campaign. So you have selected keywords that you want to target, but that does not mean that those are the actual searches that you'll appear for. So you want to come to insights and reports and search terms reports regularly. And whenever you see searches that you either want to add as a new keyword to your campaign or add as a negative because it's irrelevant to what you offer, then this is the place you would go to do so. And early on inside any campaign, you won't have a lot of data to work with at the beginning to be making major changes to your keywords, ads, and landing pages. But from the very beginning, search term analysis is something you'll always be doing throughout. So this is where you'll probably be spending a lot of your time for the first few weeks to 1 month, especially. And lastly, as well, but one of the most important things to remember is to make sure that you set up conversion tracking. Now, I have videos on the channel, which I'll leave above, that go into detail on how to set up tracking for form submissions if somebody fills out the form on your landing page, or for all types of phone calls. That includes calls from the assets, like we mentioned, or also calls from your landing pages, or calls from call only ads if you're running call only campaigns. But it's not one to be underestimated, because if you're running maximize clicks, for example, as we recommend at the very beginning, then it's going to be impossible to get to a point where we can actually optimize for conversions if we don't have conversion tracking set up, because we need to make it clear to Google which people are actually converting into a lead and which are just wasted clicks that we don't want to be targeting anymore. So I hope this video helped and gave you some clarity on how to set up a campaign to get as many qualified leads as possible as a service-based business. Now, if you do have any questions at all about anything we mentioned inside this video, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you are a service-based business as well, looking to further refine your own campaigns, feel free to have a look at the link in the description. And if you do like this Google Ads related content as well, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as we'll be posting all things related to Google Ads here daily. And hopefully we'll see you inside the next video.